Hey guys, I'm MG, and to celebrate the release of a new James Gunn reboot, I'll be looking at Superman, which is a 1978 superhero film that is based on the comics with the same name and stars Christopher Reeve as the titular character, which is about Clark Kent becoming a hero as Superman while developing a romance with Lois Lane and an enemy of Lex Luthor. It was also directed by Richard Donner and written by a lot of people. However, why don't we stop swimming and start reviewing this film right now? I actually wanted to review this movie since the end of my Seuss videos. I don't know why I waited so long for this, and I really wish I hadn't. Because this is such a refreshing origin story for the main character, and I had a pretty good time watching this. The score by John Williams is impeccable, with it constantly having a tone of heroism, while also managing to sustain a lot of tension and good emotion every time it's heard. And I'm going to be real, but I think a lot of the visual effects still look really solid to this day. It has a fair share of dated effects, but in general, I really like how the visuals look in the movie, and it contains a lot of dazzling imagery that is insanely impressive from 1978, and helps spread a bit of life to the entire experience. The pacing is also really strong for a film over 2 hours, and all of the acts and scenes had a perfect balance of speed in it that makes the script really coherent due to how much effort was put into making it. The action scenes aren't the most exciting bits ever, I just think it's a little light on the energy, but they were still entertaining for what they were, with the climax standing out to me the most due to how many things are happening in it. The direction by Donner is outstanding, with it having a lot of great edits and creative camera shots that contains impeccable production design that doesn't look cheap in the slightest. The story is really engaging to watch for the whole runtime, with it serving as an excellent outline for the character's origin. However, I have to say that I do lose a bit of interest in the plot when we flash forward to Clark becoming an adult. The first 50 minutes was amazing. The entire opening sequence in Krypton had outstanding production design and visuals, and it perfectly set up a story. And the parts where Clark as a teen is just as riveting. The train run was cute. I really like the relationship Clark has with his family. The ice space was really stunning visually and emotionally, and I was endeared by him trying to find a purpose in his life. I only hated one scene from it, and I think you'll know when you see the film. But regardless, this was an incredible first act. But the second act was not as enticing in my opinion. It was pretty decent for what it was. It felt right to be in the story, and it contains a lot of fleeting moments that I enjoyed, like with the alley gunshot scene. But the story gets slightly repetitive, since Superman is saving the day over and over again, or we see Lex Luthor planning his goal of world destruction. And it's not the most enjoyable thing to watch, especially with Lex's scenes. But we'll get to him later though. I will say that I think the climax made up for the not great second act, because despite it not being as good as the opening, it's where the movie fully grabs me again, since I felt the weight of the destruction of the world and Lois Lane dying, which was pretty dark for a film that has been lighthearted, but it doesn't feel unnatural and was a great moment. But the middle part is still not that engaging to sit through, and I think that the characters are a huge part of why that is the case. Superman himself is pretty likable, and Christopher Reeve was straight up perfect casting, who manages to juggle all sorts of emotions, and I don't think anyone else could have done a better job than he did. But the reason why I don't think Clark's a great protagonist is because in the opening, he had an internal struggle finding his purpose. But in this part, he doesn't have much of a struggle, and just wants to protect the people. Yeah, he's fun and likable, and I want to see him achieve his goals, but that doesn't exactly make him interesting, and I'm not invested in his character anymore, when he has basically nothing to work with, outside of just wanting to save lives. Lois Lane is more of the same, decently enjoyable and charismatic, and Margot Kidder is quite energetic. But again, she doesn't have anything for her character, outside of being a love interest. And it's kind of absurd how irrelevant she is to the plot, which is very baffling when you think about it. I also wish that she had more chemistry with Superman. It was alright for what it was, with the flying scene being very sweet, but if they had focused more on it, instead of only having it in 2 to 3 scenes, then I think that would have fixed the slightly repetitive nature in the plot for me. They could have also made Jimmy Olsen or Perry White funny, since I cannot tell if they're trying to or not. Regardless, I would have preferred some of the humor coming out of them as well, because right now, I feel nothing to their characters here. Lex Luthor is also a pretty mediocre villain. He has a couple of fun moments, like his interactions with Otis were sometimes pretty amusing, with that latter moment being really funny, but I don't get much out of him as a character, and Gene Hackman doesn't do any favors unfortunately. He's not bad, but I just don't see him as a villain, and the character drags the movie down a bit for me. So overall, I would still say this is a pretty good movie, with an exceptional first and third acts, but only a decent enough second act that makes it not the best superhero film of all time. Regardless, I would still say give it a watch, because it makes you feel happy on the inside, and you'll feel rewarded for checking it out. So go ahead and watch it. 7.7 out of 10. Goodbye everyone, and thank you for watching. Bye!